Hey folks, welcome to the session. We're just going to wait for 5 minutes before we start with the session with Aseem. But till then, just put up in chat where you're all working from. A lot of people are not part of the Rize community. So also, you can mention what you're working on. One-liner. We'll start at 4:05 exact. Don't feel shy to write something in the chat if you're not working on anything. Also, just let us know where you're based out of. I see Twix Social sharing it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, feel free to give the app link or the website link as well. I'd be happy to check it sometime. Yeah.
This is also meant for a place to network. So, best place to market yourselves. Not too much though. Welcome, Kunal, Ujjwal. Another 2 minutes and then we can start. I'll also like to introduce my team. If everyone does not know, there's Nipun and Cheryl from the Rize team. I know a lot of people who are not part of the Rize community and this group. So feel free to reach out to us if you want to know more about Rize or Rize for YC. Okay, I think we can start. We have about 50 people already online. So let's not make everyone wait for the rest. Welcome, Aseem. Thank you for taking out time, today to run us through and deep dive and give us your insights, on the YC application and what you all did to, get through to YC 23. I don't want to waste too much time. I'm going to hand it off to you. I'm just going to lay down some ground rules, right? So it's a 45-minute session, 30 to 45-minute session where Aseem will, give a deep dive into the YC application. You can put down your questions in chat. If you do not want to put it in chat and you want to, ask them yourself, please raise your hands. We'll pick up questions maybe in the middle, but mostly in the end. And if you have anything else, just you can, personal chat me or DM me and I'll take it forward.
All right. Thank you, folks, for having me. I am Aseem, co-founder of qoohoo and Shaktiman. qoohoo is in creator economy, helping creators launch their courses and automating their communities. And Shaktiman is what we recently launched. It's an education initiative for personal mentorship. Yeah, so I believe that a lot of people have their own journey, and some people would have already started 1 year ago, probably recently, or they probably are about to launch it as well, their products. So I would like spend some time on my application and would be happy to have more space for the doubts because that is what I feel is more valuable to you folks. All right. So yeah, before that, let me tell you about our journey and that how YC has been for us, and after that we can see about the application process. So for me, for us, like qoohoo, we started in 2021 early, and we launched it publicly later that year, and that was in somewhere December 2021. And I was also part of Razorpay for 4 years. I joined early team of Razorpay in 2017, and YC used to be always fascinating for me because I have seen culture of Razorpay, how it grew, and I've seen at different stages of that, like small team, less than 100 people to more than 3,000 people. And that was one of the reasons that why I knew the value of like YC, apart from just the funding part. So I used to keep iterating to my co-founder Vimal that we should apply to YC, and finally, after 1.5 years, during 2022, around September, we applied for the YC application. We had no plans, but on the last couple of hours when they were left for the application, we filled out the form, and we were absolutely not expecting that we would get selected because we just even though we filled the form sincerely, but we thought we didn't have any advice, we didn't know that how well we filled the application and all. But fortunately, we got the call after 1 month of it. And when we got that call, we missed that email. And after 5 days, we actually got to know that we had gotten selected into IC from some external person. We ourselves didn't get to know. So that is also one point to note. So we requested YC folks to allow us a chance and get our interview done, and we got an interview. The interview was for 10 minutes, and that went like it was just like the fastest ever interview that happened. It was like just the 3 minutes has passed, and we were like wondering whether even the 10 minutes have passed or not. So we have to be prepared for beforehand how the interview went. Probably we'll discuss it about after the application. And during the YC journey, like if let's say somebody is planning, do have your visas ready beforehand. That was one of the part where last year a lot of people struggled. I also struggled. I got it in the last time. And during the YC batch, it was really great. So we already had a goal in my mind, like in our mind, for example, that we had to raise a funding round. Second, we had to grow. And apart from that, we got a lot of things apart from our base goal, which was the great network, the great advice from YC partners. And the network that I'm talking about, it's for lifelong, even after the YC program. And that means that today also I can ping anybody in my YC group batch if I need some technical help or any general advice, anything. And apart from that, you have a very intuitive structure that you get to form during your journey. That is the most valuable part of your journey. For example, if we have to raise a funding, obviously we have to grow. And for our startup to grow, we have to focus on certain numbers, whether it has to be free users or it has to be on, let's say, the revenue part. So once that goal is fixed, the partner helps us in deciding the right goal for us, rather a bit more ambitious goal, and then we put all our efforts just to do that without distraction. And that is what we do for 3.5 months. And once that is done, that's another kind of journey that happens during a demo day. Only that we'll talk about it sometime later. Yeah. So I'll quickly jump to the application process that we have, and feel free to keep adding the questions in the Zoom. Yeah. So I've written a small brief points for you all. This is all literally the advice that we had from one of the fellow mates who had filled the YC application in 2017. And this is all what we used to fill our application. Unfortunately, we got selected. So one thing is keep your application very simple. Be expressive, but don't use jargons or any marketing words. Your idea is to put more weightage on numbers or revenues or customers and the pedigree or the background that you have. For example, you might be from a like research background and you're building something in research that related area, or you might have built a startup before. Doesn't matter whether a field startup, a successful startup, doesn't matter, but you can definitely mention that. And so apart from that, have a good storyline in the sense that you can have a line about how the founders met. When was your idea started? Like, for example, we started in 2021 early, we launched in later 2021 publicly. And that journey itself between when we beta launched and publicly launched was also very important. That is why, like, when you mention that, it gives you a storyline to talk about those parts, like how you got your initial customers and how you like how their retention curve is. So those things you can talk about it, and you can also talk about it that why it really took time to launch it publicly. Let's say, for example, for us, it took nearly 6-7 months to publicly launch it after the beta launch. The reason being that building a product in this particular zone was mostly about understanding the customers really well. And with the help of the data, we in fact showed that as well. That's why, like I'm mentioning, that's a part of a storyline. And then numbers. If you have numbers, great. If you don't have numbers, talk about it. Try to have initial customers. Even if you YC does accept ideas, stage startups, like say you are a very great founder or you have some startup previously functioning or like some background, or let's say you have been a founding member of some startup and you're starting, it's great. But otherwise, I would advise that like it's good to have some initial customers who are using your product because you will better be able to create your storyline and talk about that how it is progressing, how your idea is progressing. So that is one thing. And core insights. This is one of the very important parts of the application, and where you write, for example, in our idea regarding qoohoo and Shaktiman, I'll talk about qoohoo first. So qoohoo is about the creator economy where like creators can launch their courses, memberships across any platform. This is just a single line idea, but there can be 10, 15, 20 startups in India, probably around the globe that can be doing it. But what is that our insight that we feel strong on? That was that we have observed a particular kind of a phenomena that was happening during 2020 and 2021, that every creator was getting the communities to a chat like a platform as a Slack, WhatsApp, Telegram, Discord. And to monetize these platforms, there was literally nothing was there. No platform used to exist at that point of time. So that became a core insight because nobody was solving it. And not just that, also the first hand experience, because Vimal, my co-founder, has experience building in that. He faced the problem firsthand. His brother is a creator. He faced the problem firsthand. So that became a plus point over expressing this core insight point. Otherwise, your idea can be, for example, when Razorpay was launched, Razorpay is a 10x better product. It still is a very good product as compared to the other payment products out there in the market. So you can talk about that why your product is 10x better. Don't talk about why it is 2x better because that will not help you. Why it is 5x, 10x important, x better, that is important. If you're building a B2B business, probably you can talk about that how your startup can save somebody's 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours a week of a user's time. So like this becomes your core insight that okay, currently this is amount of time is getting wasted, and how much time you can effectively save it for that particular customer company that you are onboarding as a client. So these are core insights that you have to express a lot nicely. And then becomes that okay, you have the core insight, you have defined the idea, then why you? So sometimes it happens that I walk through the application, and sometimes, like in some of the points we have mentioned that it's very difficult to like separate out 2 points. So we have also mentioned it like, okay, here is what we mentioned in section 3.5, and in 3.5 we elaborate it more. So the idea is that idea is okay, good, but why are you the right person to build it? Have you faced the experience, like have you faced the problem firsthand, or have you been already researching about it? Do you have the initial customers where you took the initial feedback, or like some thesis that you formed where it tells okay, the idea is good but you can also execute it really nicely? Or it can be about related to pedigree as well. For example, you are a second term founder or you had a great background before, so you can talk about that. So that overall becomes this thing. So this is not, it's not necessarily that there is a point for this, but you have to capture it in the storyline. Some point you have to capture that. All right. So yeah, this is the basis of it. And let's start with our application, how I and Vimal filled it. So this is a demo. If you already have a demo, keep it very short and talk about only the most important part of your product in a very simple language, the Eureka part of the product. Just talk about that. If you don't have product, I believe you can do a whiteboard, like make a nice flow diagram or something like that and talk about that, which captures a real important part of your startup, that why you are building this or the thesis behind that. And yeah, so this is one of that, like you have to nicely mention, no jargon words like I told. We briefly defined what qoohoo does, like what we are actually building, and then we defined the underlying thesis about it. And then also we concluded it very nicely that with qoohoo, creators can do this, and that. Or with qoohoo, creators can save this much time, that much time, or whatever time. So you have to, like I told, have to end the paragraph nicely as well. Keep it simple, keep it to the point, but also capture all the points. What your product is doing, simple terms, then thesis around it. Thesis will cover the problem statement. Like you see that it's not scalable, quick, chaotic way of managing it. So we defined the problem statement here. And then with using qoohoo, what benefit the creators will get. So that is what we made it as. And so here is about defining the founders. So one very important part that during the journey we'll figure out during the demo day, and also during the initial pitch, this pitch, and also during the interview. Even though one founder will be speaking like most of the time, let's say 40 minutes of the time, 40 seconds or 45 seconds, for example, in this case, but at least the other founder should be speaking for 10 seconds to 15 seconds. This tells that both founders are excited equally. And this also tells that both founders respect each other. This is very important. This we have like seen it happening like during this interview time. In interview time, again, like there should not be a like clash between while you are speaking and your founder is speaking. So decided that okay, you'll be speaking about the idea part after the brief introduction, and I will be speaking about that how excited about this idea, taking it global, like why this idea is exciting for me particularly. So it's just that. Keep it simple, just that. Yep. So here comes the progress. So when you have some numbers, it's easier to apply, like because you have more story points to write about it and how you achieve those numbers. So I'll particularly talk about that right now. And if you don't have numbers, we can take that as a questions later. Okay, so this is like I told as a storyline we built that beta was launched in June. December was like 6, 7 months we took for the public launch. And again, like the numbers are growing or like not growing or they're static. Or if you identified during the beta to public launch, also you might have some great insights. So you can mention that. So this is also very important part for like YC, whether you're working full time or not. And this also tells that how long you have been working together. So one thing that YC iterates as that like for being a successful startup, very fundamental thing should be clear that there should not be fights between the founders. And found like building a startup is a very long journey. It's like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, up to 10, even more a bigger journey. So more, so like one uh, like clear thing is that if you have already been like been working since couple of years, if you're childhood friends, you have been colleagues, or you're like general friends, work on some projects, met in some conference, it's great. You can mention that as well. Or if you have built some startup before, that is also a very wonderful point because that tells that you know each other's working style. So that can become a plus point. Vimal and I were meeting for the first time. We met it by a common friend who worked in Razorpay and also worked like prior to that in his company before. So, but there was some way in like that. It's so YC application most of the times is not about just like you are applying to YC, but it's also self-reflection that like for example, in case you don't end up getting selected in YC, so there's nothing to get disheartened, but rather it's a good check that you have reflected upon your journey. And like for example, in our case, it so happened that we like even if we had some disagreements like during the journey, but we know how to resolve them very amicably. So that was our reflecting upon us that okay, we are actually good people to build the startup or not. And YC will in fact mention it several times during your journey of 3.5 months, and also they have a couple of times mentioned that uh, during some public videos that they keep launching. Yeah. So coming to this, like I told, if you have some numbers, it's easy to put it. So we have put some numbers over here. These numbers can become a lot different after you have joined YC, but it's okay. At least this gives that you have put a lot of efforts and you have got something. So that means that you're much ahead in the journey than just starting up with an idea. And here we hadn't launched like the public the fee model yet. We were just experimenting about it. So we had just mentioned that okay, we are experimenting with the subscription fee model, which we feel is good. So this up till this stage, we had like some paid users over the period of couple of months, and lot more free users. If you notice that 25 more than 50% of the users are free. So that also worked for us. And you can also mention that what you're planning. For example, we mentioned about we're planning for subscription fee. All right. So yeah. So since we were only like we were applying to the YC at the time, we already had the users and some revenue. It was very important for us to mention that how we are going to grow from there, or if we are experimenting something new in the startup, to include the new revenue stream. So that is what we have mentioned it. So depending upon the stage of your company, you have to build that storyline that okay, now you have done till this much, what's next? So that is what we have mentioned. That recently, like it was in September when we applied for the application, and during that year, a couple of months back, only we had introduced the revenue stream, and that is what we are planning to do fourth. That is the status of that time. That is what we mentioned. Yeah. So like I was mentioning about, you have probably set up the thesis, idea, and you. So this section is talking about that particularly. So why are you the right person to start this idea? Why are you working on this idea, not the other idea? So that is about this. Because more deeply you will talk about it, better it will be able to tell about that how deep you understand the problem statement and how deeply you are involved in the problem statement. So this talks about Vimal's background. So Vimal actually had started this in like, so I joined in 2021 January, and Vimal had already was like had done some research. He was talking to some creators 2-3 months prior to me. He was a single person during that time, and so he talked about that journey a brief. And after that, he talked about his brother, the first-hand problem that he faced. And then he talked about his first experience, like his own experience being the creator or as an educator. So that became a strong point of the storyline that we are setting up, that why we are the right people. And then everything else mostly will revolve around it in the idea point. So this is simple. If you're already So most of the people have already figured that out. Even if you're not earning the revenue, at least you know that how you would make the money. So it is simple for us effectively. So this was important for us to write it some estimate that okay, we are already doing something. How much we are gonna do it? So we cannot just write a like we have to write this because we already had somewhere in the application written that okay, we are doing already this much number. So they know okay, this is a startup which has to grow from already A point to, let's say, some B point. If you don't have the revenue, you can talk about in the next 6 months you want to achieve this or that number, or probably you can talk about in the 6 months you want to focus on free users, and after 6 months you'll start opening it like as a fee model where you're planning to earn this much. Yeah, so this becomes further weighted point where like where we are mentioning that okay, we are building the idea, but how confident we are that this is the right approach to build the idea. So like we are mentioning something like this over here. So competitors is okay, and this is something about the core insights that I was mentioning. Competitors will always be there in the market. And since you're about to raise a VC funding, you need to have some core insight that you think that can give an edge to your startup. Or you might have some experience. Example, you are a marketing guru and you can crack, let's say, 500,000 users within 6 months, for example, which no other startup can do it. And which or probably like if some startup is already having 1 million users, so obviously you cannot say that line. But let's say a lot of startups are early stage, so that line can be very powerful in your application. So that's where you're using your experience rather than just the ideas, like ideas, insight, to tell that why you are the right people or what right insight you have. So here we talked about that a lot of people at the time were converging or had pivoted to something like what we were building. And then there were some startups before us already in the creator economy, but they were not working, functioning like at a growth level. They were also like pivoting, or they were also figuring out, so that we use it as a strong point. And also there was another YC company. So we use that as a comparison way to tell us that why our core insight is better. So we clearly told that, and like I told, we had a time from our beta journey to the public launch journey of 6 to 7 months. Sometimes it might feel that YC can take it as a negative point, but we use it as a positive point for us, saying that we use that journey to understand our customers really well. And that is what we used over here, telling that we don't comply to the approach that other competitors are using. Rather, we feel our approach is better because we have seen it happening during a beta phase before we launch. So that became, that is how we positively portrayed the points. Of course, you might have some supporting numbers, so you can put that. And also, like we have been very frugal about using our funding and not using marketing. So you can see that we have also justified the increasing of the numbers using this. We didn't spend any marketing, so that means there was no inorganic thing that happened. But other competitors were actually using marketing or were giving onboarding bonuses to the creators to use their platform, but we didn't do it anything. So that became another positive point for us. Yeah. So this is also one of the very important aspect. You could be a person, like I told, that marketing guru or sales guru who might get a lot of initial customers, or you can be very resourceful that you somehow get the initial customers. For example, in our case, Vimal, since he was an educator already, he has his brother as a music creator. So, and we also had talked to Tanmay Bhatt, like who is our investor. So we already had very good pitch points and initial seed of creators to use our platform during our beta phase and give us a lot of feedback. So this became our resourcefulness, which you have to figure how to get the initial product users. Crack it somehow. That will help you a lot. If that will at least put you in a stage where you are not just a idea person, but also like proving your thesis or feedback like from the customers. So here we talked about that initial customers came from the network, and 60% of the, since we didn't use our marketing or any onboarding bonuses like you saw here. So this again continuing in the same storyline, we mentioned that okay, if not from the marketing, then from where did we get our further customers? We got from our network effects or word of mouth. So you see that how the story is actually completing. That how we started, how we got our initial customers, then how we got our further customers, and then how we are how we launched further, and where did we, at what time did we launch our like the fee model, or when did we start experimenting with the fee model, and at what stage where we are. So that is the storyline that we try to add it, while adding the strong points wherever we can. And again, like we have customers, so obviously we have to talk about the retention, whether free customers or the paid ones. So yeah, one very important part is that YC absolutely loves when you talk about the customers numbers. So if you have customers, talk more about them, like with the help of numbers. Of course, you cannot use vague terms. It's good to say that okay, 20% of the customers are saying that. You took a survey of, let's say, 100 people, 20% are saying that, 25% are doing that, even if you don't have a product. If you have a product, then I'm sure you will be having some numbers. That, for example, if let's say you have 5 customers, or probably let's say you're building something in like for medical, so you can talk about hospitals, that 3 hospitals you have onboarded and 2 hospitals are regularly using it, or probably within a month of launch in 2 hospitals, you're already getting like 100, like let's say 500 patients who have used your product, something like that, you can use it. Yeah, so this is something that helps a lot. This helps in talking about So I missed the equity section and legal section. They're very basic. So I think if you have any specific, feel free to ask. But let's jump on this. So this section starts talking about on a personal level, where like I attended some online sessions so that like turned out to be 1 point to write. Obviously, this is not adding otherwise any weight. It's not any achievement as such, but at least I tried something is what like I have a point to write that I am already familiar with YC. Because see, what happens is YC is like getting a lot of applications around the world. So how they will get to know you is what like is whatever you're putting. So if I'm writing this, so okay, they will know that okay, this is the person who already knows about YC, have done something in even if as a YC school certificate. So that is why writing even a small point that increases your familiarity or increases your chances of success of getting into the YC, do write it in a positive way. So this is something that I've already worked in Razorpay. Fortunately, Razorpay did really, really good over the period of time. And everyone in YC knows about Razorpay, so I didn't have to prove a lot that how YC, how Razorpay is doing or not. I just had to mention that I was part of Razorpay in the early team. So that is what I was mentioning, that even if I didn't do any previous startup, I was early part, like part of the early team in Razorpay. So that became a very positive point that I have seen the journey in Razorpay, like in during its like Series A, B, C, D, E, like whatever the like the growth happened over the period of time. So that also puts in a way that since I'm a technical founder, that says that I've seen the journey of team increasing from 100 to 300 to 800. That is how what Razorpay increased over the period of time. So that means that good for now, but I also am aware of that. I've seen a company getting grown in front of me. So that becomes a good positive point. And Vimal, for example, in his previous company, he applied it, got rejected 2 times. So it's okay. You can be a little bit candid over here, humble over here. You don't have to make your entire application like you are a like rock solid person. Just don't worry about showing your flaws or these failures are not failures really about for YC. I'll tell you about a very interesting point about the YC about after this application, but just keep in mind that these things are not negative. All right. So this is also that let you can clearly see that Vimal wrote that he was procrastinating. Like when I was saying that, right? That I kept on iterating to Vimal that we should apply to YC after every 6 months. That point of time, Vimal used to say, okay, let's not do it right now. We should try something of our own first, and then we should go towards that. So in fact, we have also mentioned that. I think it's a normal point. Yeah. So Vimal had a little bit more to write about himself. I didn't have. But like, and I'll talk about myself a bit later. So Vimal mentioned about himself, some good points, decent points, right? For me, like I am a more like an introvert person or like an ambivert person. A lot of tech founders will face that problem, but that's okay. Like I mentioned, that be candid, be humble, like be expressive. That is most important. It's okay that you don't have much to write. It's okay that you don't have the question answered exactly. Like I haven't. If you read my question, if you read my answer and the question, they actually don't match either each other. But that is only the best thing I could write, but that is also one of the very good points from my side I could write. So that is why I've written it. So I'll just tell what I've written so that it's easier for everyone to know. So this tells about what you have achieved. So in achievement, I can't say that I've achieved some certificate or I haven't launched anything publicly. But I used to develop a lot of games during my college time, and I learned all by myself. And that actually helped me more than just the programming level. It helped me how to build the graphics. It helped me how to like understand businesses and product more than just the code. How to write a good quality code. That was also one of the reasons how I cleared my interview in Razorpay in 2017 because of just this reason. So this is the most like this is one of the things that I'm most proud of it. So I've written it. Nothing that I've achieved something, but it's okay. You can write like that way. So, and I have also had to write it that why it is more better than like it is not just a coding. So I've just mentioned briefly in one line that, you know, like when somebody doesn't know how to do a game development, they will say it's coding only, but it's not coding. So I've just like explicitly mentioned it that when I've done that, probably somebody hasn't given me certificate. I have achieved, like, I've won some hackathons solo as well, but I didn't want to mention that because that was not so major. If you want to mention hackathons, feel free to write it. But okay, whatever you want to write it, just be candid, humble, just write it. Similarly, like this, I didn't have anything hacked like into the system or whatever, because like I told that we are techies and we don't generally socialize at that level, that we have cracked something, but still you can write something that before building qoohoo, after our office hours in Razorpay, I was building some startup with a college friend and we built for 4 months, and we also talked to a lot of users. So during that time itself, like I took the YC startup school program. And so even if there's nothing that we achieved over here or we had something over here, but this is something that I thought could be worth mentioning to them, that it's not that I came out of the blue and started something. I have a background to what I am building. So if you notice that I also completed my story nicely here, that how I started it and that how I just before starting qoohoo, what was my journey. And similarly, Vimal had his own journey, and similarly, our own like the entire startup has its own journey. So that is how we completed our application. Yeah. So yeah, that is about the application part. And after a month, like I told that we were not anticipating any call, uh, and we somehow got into YC interview.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aseem, for running us through the whole application. I got a lot of requests that will you be able to share your application with people to as examples, but I'm not sure. So I'll leave that up to you.
All right. So it's just one thing from my side. Like you know, like I mentioned that we didn't see anybody's application. We didn't get it review from anyone. We filled it literally in the last hours of a deadline. So I believe that you be more confident about yourself rather than understanding my application and getting like biased about how should be writing the application. Be more expressive. And just I'll share the points that I've written. In fact, I'll share the points right now itself so that we don't forget it later. So this is something, the template that you should be aware of. Okay, I think it hasn't come nicely over here, but let me write it.
That's fine.
Yeah, so these are the only things that you have to keep in mind. Be more expressive. I keep getting applications from LinkedIn, and people sometimes they think that not writing the jargons or not writing the marketing words means that writing your applications very boringly. It's not like that.
Okay.
Be expressive about it. Write your good points. Brag it in a right way. I would say that. You have
Got
to brag it. That is very important. Brag it, but in a right way.
it. Maybe that can be our tagline for this session.
Yeah.
But just thank you so much for doing this. But we'll open up to questions now.
Yeah.
And, folks, you can start either writing your questions or raising your hands, and I'll call you out one by one. Yeah, Arka Duty Datta. I hope I
Hi,
got.
Orkati Datta. It's fine. It's tough to pronounce my name. Hi, Aseem. It was really, it's an honor to meet you. Obviously, I've checked out qoohoo before. It was really great. It's a great product. Thank you for doing this, helping us out. So I think I had a couple of questions. So for us, I think we are college students, right? Me and my Prateep, he's in the session. Like you said, a bit introverted, so the video is off. But the thing is that we are college students, right? And we have built very small things, right? We are just trying out with code at this point. I'm not even a full stack coder. Prateep is the full stack coder. We have very minimal experience in terms of internship and whatnot. So what would be your suggestion that what do we talk about? Because we have been the end customer. What we are building, it's AI powered. So as college students, we have very few money, right? We don't have a lot of money, but we still want to work out. We want to stay fit. We had that passion, right? And that is an issue that came with us, right? Because we did not get proper guidance. So we're taking help from AI to have proper guidance for people, at an affordable price. So we are building something around that. And most of the AI is obviously, these are tools that we are building through AI. But we have been in the end customer there. But how do we explain to people that we are the perfect fit for the product? Because we believe that we have an okay idea, we have a market, we have talked with people, we have shown the beta to people, and people are excited. But for us, that would be very difficult to explain them.
All right. So like I told that, bag it in the right way, right? Top 2, 3, 4 very important points that you have, for example, in the core insights. Write about that. Why are you building it? Did any one of you in the founding team or founders face that issue?
We did, both of us did.
Yeah, and then you can relate it with that how, since you face it, definitely 100 or 1,000 more people would be facing it today. You
Right,
can talk about it. And is your startup saving somebody's time? Is your startup is like a research idea on AI? It's not just
Saving
that.
money.
It could be saving money as well. Yes. Is it like that you are having some core insight that nobody else is trying? So start writing points about that. So your entire application is about putting the weight at the places wherever you can. If you think your background is not very strong, if you then try to write like put the weights towards, let's say, core insights are really strong. You did some survey, or you have some customers, you have
Right.
some numbers. Try to put the weight over there.
Right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right. So just try to write top 3, 4 points where you can start putting the weights on.
Oh, and another final question. If we do get selected for the interview, like you said, visas and everything. So I think the logistics are very complicated, right? For that.
Logistics, like for going to the US or for arranging for
Right. For
visa?
obviously US. I mean, that is something that we would have to think about if we do get selected.
Don't worry about it yet.
No need to
We
worry
didn't
about.
worry. See, we were like a person, we don't plan a lot. We are people who go by fundamentals. We went to US. We thought we would be there for 3 months, but we booked the stay only for 3 days. Then we again further extended it. Then we like further extended it, and then we came back because we thought that it would be better to come back to India for our growth and customers. Our only objective, sole focus was just the objectives that we had set, not the logistics, nothing.
Right. Thank you. Thanks
You
a
can
lot.
use your funding. If you're into YC, you can use your funding for your logistics.
I mean,
like whatever.
I mean, YC is obviously the preferred position for any startup, right? And that
Yeah.
is something we do dream about. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.
Okay, so the next, Himanshu, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi. Hi, Aseem. Thank you, Manik. I guess that was you. Aseem, so there was this question about can you I'll give you certain context to it. For the last 1.5 years, I was working on a startup, and of course, we raised a pre-seed, but then we couldn't really go ahead with it. So now I have taken up a full-time job, but I'm still working on some of my ideas. And we have built an MVP. We have a few customers, users using it. How important is the question that how many people are working full time on it? Because none of us are actually full time on it. The CTO, the person who's, I mean, the person who will take care of the tech for our project, even he is heading AI for one of the companies. So none of us is full time. Does that really impact the application at this stage?
All right. So think like that. The story that you told is of mine, okay, and you are YC. Or let's say any investor in the world. If I tell this story, what questions you will have in mind? First, you'll ask it that if selected in YC, will you be resigning it or working on it full time? And for example, it could be that, have you already planned for coming into the full time? For example, you have already put papers in your company. So these are the fundamental questions you have to cover up. If already not working on it, if you have MVP and customers, that's really good. But do cover up these questions, telling that after 2 months or after 3 months, you'll be working full time on this idea, and probably all founders will work full time on this idea.
Yeah, probably that is the scenario. It's just that with when you put that much time for something, so I've actually lost out of my fuel to go without finances for the next few months.
So
Hence, I'm trying to
put it
sort
in
that
that
out.
way.
Yeah.
So put it in this
Okay.
way, that currently you're handling your finances with your full time job, but you have planned to do it as soon as possible.
Oh,
You're,
okay.
and you have to put it that in a way that you're already full into the idea, because nobody invests in an idea when you are fully not invested, right? So why will somebody put money in you? So you have to cover that up in a positive way.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Thank you, Aseem.
Thanks, Himanshu. Prashant, you want to go next?
Yeah, so before that, I
before we
will
take
cover
over.
up one question somebody has asked in Zoom chat part. So YC, also one of the points that I talked about, how YC considers failures as. It's not just about YC. When we went to US for the retreat, we saw it literally everyone. Either everyone like is pivoting in the middle of the batch. Some people pivot after the 3 months of the entire YC journey as well. They do like that. And somebody has just pivoted the idea while they're entering into YC. YC is very open to that. Twitch is one such company. I attended one of the sessions, and the founder told that Twitch was actually formed in the 5th year of several experimentations. And so they really appreciate the failures. Fail fast, have the deep, don't fail because of the stupid reasons. Fail because you think the idea is not working. After you have tried that customers, numbers, and everything, uh, after when you are feeling a lot of respect, everyone does for you. So failure is nothing like a failure if you have a lot of learnings that you got out of it. So like that is also one of the perspective that don't talk about failures as a negative way. Tell about what you learned from that.
Got it. I'll pick up one more question from the chat, which I got from Saswat. I'm a solo non-technical founder, but the product is live. I know that's a negative as a there's no technical founder, but can I do without much of a traction as of now? But what can I do without much of a traction as of?
All right.
Did you get the question, Aseem, or you would?
Probably, I think 2 questions are there. So can you please like split that up again?
Yeah. So the first
Yes,
question.
can I
Yeah.
just say it right?
Go.
All
Yeah.
right. Hi, Asim. So I'm a non-technical founder. I mean, even if I know coding, but I'll still consider it non-technical myself. But the product is just live 1 week back, and and I mean, I don't have much time to like show some tractions because so what can I do to maximize the chances?
All right. So one thing is that so you already have a MVP live, website live, a product live. Do
Yes,
you have any
yes.
customers who have already come?
Yeah, I have like a group of college students and a club that has partnered with us.
All right,
All right.
that's good.
Yeah.
And
And
is
the
your product
website has everything is ready almost.
all right? Is your product technical, or will it
Yes.
require much of a tech expertise? Let's say after 2 months.
Uh, See, we're building a marketplace, so much of the work is related to non-tech part. I
All
mean,
right,
marketplace, and that's not. I mean, technical thing is a must. I know, and I'll hire a co-founder later on. I'll try to recruit one, but it's really. I was actually working with my technical co-founder, but we had been trying to do a lot of stuff in the past 2 years, and he had to quit. So that's why.
got it. And do you have any other teammates, like, or
No,
you're a solo founder?
no, I'm a solo founder, but I'm
All
getting
right.
some help from my college juniors.
All right. So I'll tell you that how YC have like a lot of different criteria of how they like select a particular startup, not nothing particular. So but the fundamental question remains same that let's say you get selected for YC tomorrow and you're going to like for the batch, whether remote or in USA. How best you can utilize the opportunity is what onto you.
Right.
And if you're not able to utilize, if YC thinks that you cannot utilize the opportunity really well, obviously they will prefer some other startup over you. Now, in your particular case, if you think that your startup is not purely technical, but you think that after 3 months, a lot of tech gonna come, try to have at least a founding team member convinced.
No,
Or if you
obviously,
think, yeah,
they are there,
if
but they're not the founders right now. So I mean, because college students, no?
all right. So if you think, yeah, so that can also work. So you are talking about a solo founder case. Then in that particular scenario, see, I've seen a very few founders who have gone to YC solo. But very honestly, I'll tell you, more people you'll have you from your side. Even a very small founder, like for example, like you can give 5% equity to somebody who is willing to put a lot of effort during your journey, who can come as a founder. like at this stage, obviously 5% could be less for them, but I'm just giving one example. Okay. So one case. So in during my time, one person was there who literally had no team, just single person, probably 1, 2 interns under him. And he convinced another person to come as a founder during the batch. And if things goes great, he also convinced him that he will leave his job and join him as a full-time co-founder, as a CTO. So that is what he utilized that opportunity as. In your case, like I would try to say to you that fill your applications towards the last. Let's say, what is the application deadline this time? It's in September 21.
I guess, yeah, I
Okay,
guess.
so try to fill somewhere around mid of September, because you'll have a month of time to get some customers. Probably you might convince your teammate to join you as a full time, something like that. Don't try to fill it today and submit it. Probably save it in the draft. Even a
I
month of
guess,
time to, yeah,
I guess
even a month of,
submitting early gives us an advantage at
yes,
this.
because you have to create a good storyline for yourself.
So
But
we
again,
already have
it's
a storyline because like we have been working on it for the past 2 years. Not this one, but like our previous startups. But like this is the thing that we pivoted into. But this time my co-founder left. But at this time we have a solid thing. I'm sure like we have a
Yeah,
solid.
for this particular startup, since you're applying for this one, you have to put a good storyline for that. So
Right.
even if you have some customers, it will at least prove to you that you don't really need a tech co-founder necessarily. So that
Yeah.
will tell
So
that, okay,
that's
you alone can handle growth a lot. But like I told, see, startup journey, like it's a general advice of YC that they think that startup journey is easier when you have two co-founders. Like it's not necessary at all. But if you have two co-founders, it's easier because you try to like first also share the burden and also utilize the opportunity the best way. So if you
yeah.
think you can manage yourself as a single co-founder, that's great. Like
I mean,
YC does
I
allow,
think
yeah.
it's like I've already I understand the product design, development process. I design everything, and I have already built the entire thing in 2 3 months with the help of some interns. So I think I can do it. But like for the application point of view, it's total negative, right?
I think it's not negative, rather it's not so positive. If you would have said that you have gotten some customers already who are using your product, then it would have told your story the right way. That since you already know the product development and all, and you have also can get the initial customers, so that
Yeah.
means you can be considered as a founder who is great at solo.
Okay. Because if we have a
Otherwise,
paying customer as
otherwise,
well.
yeah.
In
Not paying necessarily, even if they're using it regularly, that number can also help. Like I told, free users and paid users, whatever is your goal for starting, let's say 3 months, 6 months, you have to do that. So, for
Okay.
example, think it that way that you are selected in YC and your goal is to raise some round and for a demo day after 3.5 months.
Right.
Now, if you have to utilize those 3.5 months, which goes by very fast, by the way, so you should be knowing that how to develop the product and also do the growth. Since you're a
Right.
solo founder there, you have to manage both of those things. That also means that you need to have some people to rely upon who is developing the product while you're busy in YC meetings or things like that.
Right.
You getting? So having at least one full-time person will definitely help. So like I told, it's about that how YC thinks that you can utilize the opportunity best.
Absolutely, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah. It might happen that you are bringing the growth, but you need five more features to be developed to get another set of growth, or you need some experimentations to be done. But if you don't have a team to do it, forget about the founder, another co-founder. If you have the team who can do this for you, you can prove it in your application form. Great, do it.
Okay. Then I do have that then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
uh, there are a couple more questions that I'll like to just take. So one is an anonymous participant. We are two founders, but one is still in full-time jobs and will join once we get funding or revenue. I've registered the private limited company by using my name and my mother's name. As we require two directors, will YC understand why one director is having 1% and actual co-founder is not full time?
So if you haven't incorporated a company, that is even better. So because like there are startups who come to YC directly and then they form the startup in the US directly, because like YC requires you to have a startup parent company registered in USA. I'm not sure if you can register in Singapore or India in Gift City or not. I'm not aware of that. But most of the times they require you to set up in USA, and setting up in USA from scratch is much easier rather than having an Indian entity and getting it converted to US entity.
Got it.
So if you think that you can close your current company or use your current company like with 1%, 99% partnership for some other purposes, do that. For a YC company, do something where you say that your company is not incorporated yet, but you're planning to do it as soon as possible if YC selects them. If not, otherwise you have plans for doing it in India.
Got it. The next question is from Ankit. My other co-founders and I are all techies with over a decade of experience in AI. In the past 3 months since the company's inception, we have been developing solutions for companies in need of Gen AI solutions. Most projects follow similar lines. We are leveraging these learnings to conduct user interviews and shape the product. However, we currently do not have a product ready for showcasing in the application. Is this the right time to apply, or should we first build the MVP and then apply?
All right, pretty good question. So you're building in generative AI. Do you think that anybody else cannot copy your startup? That depends since you don't have your product and customers already in place. So that means the weight in the applications is all on you. That if let's say you launch it, can you defend your startup? For example, in two ways. One is technically, do you think it cannot be easily copied because you are doing some research and you are like putting some LLMs or trained LLMs over there, which it's not, which is not easy to replicate. Second thing is you're non-technical sided. Let's say you rolled it out, but you have already talked to 100 companies, or let's say 50 companies, or even let's say 20 companies who are ready to use your product at, let's say, this much scale once you go live. So like I told, your YC application is all about putting the weight at the right time, at the right place, depending upon the stage of your company. If you haven't launched, that means your weight is all on your tech part that you're building right now, your research part, and the non-technical part, that how soon you can get customers. So YC does take customers on, does take startups on the idea stage as well, even if you haven't started written even a single line of code. But then again, the weight is all on you. And you have to prove that whether you can get customers and whether your pedigree is strong or not.
Got it. Quick time check. It's 4:58, so we'll be able to take, I think, with Aseem's time, another two questions, Aseem, if that's fine. Two
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So Paranjay's question is, hi, I'm looking to build a brand in the alcoholic beverage space. I have approached and received verbal approval intent from people across the supply chain, from production to distribution to sales. However, I don't have a product yet. How should I approach my application, or should I look to raise a few angel checks before applying to YC?
All right. So I'll give you a few general things about this. Probably I might not be the right person for this because you have your product as a physical product, right? So you talked about your supply chain. I hope you have already gotten the license for that, because you generally get to have the license approved from the government to distribute it. So like I told, I'm not the right person. So I think I would pass this question for now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll pick up other two questions that have come in. One is from Karthik. Hi, I'm working on a consumer electronics startup, solving a problem I personally had. I've started beta tests, and since this is a bootstrapped hardware-based product, there are limited devices, and I cannot sell electronics before certification, which I cannot do before testing. So how do I show traction demand for the product?
All right, that's a nice question. Again, it's like a physical device part. Sir, in this particular scenario, like, do you have? I think it must be involving some kind of a research, right? You can show some numbers that if you will do this, this is the customers are already waiting to utilize that. So talk to your users, get your early users onboarded just on the basis of words that if you launch this, they will be ready to onboard within a week of launch. So if you can talk about these things in a nice way, in a numerical way, feedback way that you have collected, then also it can portray the right picture. that you haven't launched it, you are just looking for the funds, but it will be really good if you can show the prototype. The license that you're requiring is on what? It's on distribution, right? It's not on building the prototype. So you should definitely build a prototype. And also it will be really good that if you can tell that you have taken the feedback on the prototype from your customers. So your customers need not to be paying or already using it, but they can be the ones who might use it within, let's say, 1 week or 10 days or 15 days of you launching your product. And
They
you can
do.
also mention about that, like if you launch it, they're also willing to pay for it. That will even be better if your product is like that.
Got it. Okay, folks, I know there are lots of questions that have come in. We will not be able to pick all of them. This is one last question that we're picking up, and then I'll send these questions to Aseem, and he can let us know the answers whenever he has the time. Aseem, this is the last question. I don't have any co-founders, but I have 2 employees who are working on sweat equity 7% each. YC accepts 10% plus as a co-founder. Should I mention that I have 2 main team members with equity in the company?
I think anybody who's having a sweat equity 7% each is not a usual employee because it's not an ESOP, I believe. It's a direct shares that you're giving. You should definitely mention it. If are those like 2 employees, are they working full time with you?
From the question, it does look like they are, but
so then if you can prove it somehow that why you think you should be getting the remaining of the percentage as a co-founder, that really tells that why are you a strong co-founder. Strong co-founders can definitely be there. It can be on the basis of that it's your second time startup, or you have scaled a startup to a huge stage last time. Doesn't matter if failed or not, or you have a very strong background in research and your entire idea is about research and you can do a product development. If you can prove it, that's great. Definitely do mention that since those 2 employees are key employees, those employees have to be co-founder, even if they don't end up joining your YC. Probably after like your interview stage, you can mention them that why these, if you can justify really well in your application that why those people are there and you would want to have them during your YC journey, then great. Actually, or you can have one co-founder whom you might really need it during your journey of like you can do it, but you have to prove it that why you have the maximum percentage, because that is again like if I am an investor, that is my first question, that why you have the maximum equity, why if they are working full time with you from YC standard 10% is okay, they don't consider it as a co-founder for the batch, but otherwise if they are having 5% or above, they are actually your co-founders.
Got it. Makes sense. Thank you so much, Aseem, for taking out time. There are a lot more questions, but I'll tell them to reach out to you on LinkedIn and connect with you separately. But thank you so much today for taking out time and running the session. I feel like everyone got some really good insights from your application. Yeah, and all we want to do is we want to take one last poll before we leave with everyone. And I think it's
my pleasure, guys. Like, great to see a lot of folks building something. I always enjoy like when somebody builds something. So definitely hit me up on LinkedIn, but please don't ask me to review the application because sometimes I might not be the right person. I can give you a bias or something, but these are only the core points that think from the other person's perspective or YC's perspective, that why, like, if you are given a chance tomorrow to join the batch, will you be able to maximum like you utilize the opportunity in the best way possible or not? So cover those point of. And since there's already roughly 1 month left, don't fill the application tomorrow. Fill probably after 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Have a nice story build. Talk to a lot of customers. Like burn the midnight oil and get customers within next 2 weeks if possible. That will be really good.
awesome. Thank you, Aseem. Also, folks, we are reviewing applications. We have a few mentors, alums on our Rise for YC program. So if you want to get your application reviewed, you can always apply for that. And we'll help you out there. Anyway, thank you, folks. Thank you, Aseem. You're getting some really nice messages in chat. And yeah, everyone have a great weekend. We'll see you soon, probably next week.
All right. Thank you, folks, for having me. All the best.
All the best. Bye. If you folks have finished your poll, you can leave. I'm going to end the session. Thanks, folks. Thank you for joining.